In a recent interview, the Pope had a new opportunity to express his point of view on conservatives. This conversation, hosted by CBS News, focuses on several hot topics, including the opposition the Pope receives from conservative Catholics in the United States, as well as some conservative American priests. During the interview, the Pope was asked about the criticism he has received regarding his recent initiatives aimed at revising some teachings and traditions of the Catholic Church. This question is particularly relevant in light of the growing tensions within the Church between different ideological factions. The Pope's response offers a unique opportunity to understand his point of view on fundamental questions relating to the doctrine and tradition of the Church. His words reflect an attempt to balance respect for tradition with the need to adapt to modern times. This conversation is a crucial moment in understanding how the Pope intends to guide the Church through these challenges and controversies. During the interview with CBS, the Pope was directly asked about the criticism he has received from conservative bishops in the United States who oppose his efforts to revise some teachings and traditions of the Church. The question posed was the following: there are conservative bishops in the United States who oppose your new efforts to revise teachings and tradition. How do you respond to their criticisms? The Pope responded by using the adjective conservative to describe those who oppose change. He explained that the term conservative refers to someone who holds onto something and doesn't want to see beyond it. According to the Pope, this attitude is self-destructive, since it is one thing to take tradition into account and consider the situations of the past, but it is quite another to lock oneself in a dogmatic shell. The Pope underlined that an excessive attachment to tradition, without being open to new interpretations and understandings, can lead to spiritual and institutional stagnation. He highlighted the need for a balance between respect for traditions and openness to change, stating that the Church must evolve to remain relevant and significant in the modern world. This response has sparked lively discussions within the Catholic community, with some supporting the Pope's vision and others harshly criticizing it. For many believers, the understanding of the Catholic faith is that the dogma was established by the Lord Jesus Christ and his holy apostles. Within the confines of dogma, there is vast freedom that allows the Church to debate issues that are not dogmatically defined. This freedom is seen as a fundamental characteristic of the Church, which allows for dynamic and vibrant theological debate. The Pope's statement that we should not confine ourselves to a dogmatic box has caused considerable confusion among many faithful. Some believe that this statement could be interpreted as a threat to the doctrinal stability of the Church. They argue that dogmas are immutable pillars of the Catholic faith, and that moving away from them could lead to an erosion of the very identity of the Church. On the other hand, there are also those who see the Pope's statement as an invitation to a more open and inclusive dialogue. This interpretation suggests that the Pope encourages the faithful not to be too rigid, but to keep an open mind towards new interpretations and understandings that can enrich the faith without betraying fundamental principles. The resulting debate reflects tensions within the Church between those who wish to maintain strict adherence to tradition and those who, conversely, seek to adapt the Church's teachings to the needs of the contemporary world. This divide is particularly evident in the United States, where bishops and faithful are often separated along ideological lines. An American priest was interviewed and reacted with some frustration and discouragement to the Pope's words, underlining that conservatives are often accused of being too tied to traditions. He highlighted that, according to the Pope, the attitude of clinging to traditions is considered suicidal, but he defended the conservative position, stating that it represents a way to keep the essence of faith alive. He mentioned his relationship with Monsignor Mario Marini, former secretary of the Congregation for Divine Worship, who worked extensively in the Vatican and had significant influence in the appointment of various cardinals. According to the priest, the Pope, when he was still Cardinal Bergoglio, presented himself as a conservative concerned about the future of the Church, eager to re-establish the Society of Jesus, along the lines of the Jesuits, on solid and traditional foundations. This apparent contradiction between Bergoglio's past statements and his current position as Pope Francis generated a feeling of disillusionment in the priest interviewed. He recalled that Bergoglio, during the papal elections of 2005, was perceived as a serious and conservative candidate, an image that seems to have radically changed since he became pope. The priest expressed his disappointment that the Pope's opinion no longer arouses the same enthusiasm and respect as it once did. He underlined that in the past, every statement of the Pope was carefully listened to, analyzed, and discussed, while today he feels confused and disappointed by the pontiff's positions. This sentiment reflects a broader crisis of trust and identity within the Church, with many faithful having to reconcile their traditional beliefs with the new directions set out by the Pope. According to the priest, without the victory of Pope Benedict XVI Joseph Ratzinger in the elections of 2005, Bergoglio could have already become Pope. This context makes the perceived transformation of his positions even more striking. The priest's statement highlights how Bergoglio, once he became Pope Francis, began to promote a more open and progressive vision, in stark contrast to his previous image as a conservative. The priest expressed his regret in having to admit that the opinion of the Holy Father no longer arouses in him the same respect and attention as it once did. In the past, every statement by the Pope was received with great interest, analyzed, and discussed with care. Today, however, the priest feels disillusioned and uncertain about how to interpret the words and actions of Pope Francis. This disillusionment represents a significant challenge for the Church, since trust and unity are fundamental elements for the cohesion and strength of the Catholic community. The decline in interest in the Pope's views could have profound implications, affecting the participation of the faithful and their adherence to the teachings of the Church. The priest concluded this reflection with a feeling of uncertainty about how to interpret the Pope's current positions, indicating a crisis of identity and trust that requires attention and reflection on the part of ecclesiastical leaders. The Christian faith is founded on a dogma that finds its roots in the Gospels and the teachings of Jesus Christ. This dogma represents a set of fundamental and immutable truths transmitted through the centuries by the apostles and fathers of the Church, according to Catholic doctrine. These principles cannot be changed or reinterpreted in a way that contradicts their original meaning. It is for this reason that the Church is committed to faithfully preserving and transmitting the teachings of Christ, recognizing that any deviation from these fundamental principles could lead to a distortion of revealed truth and consequently, a weakening of the faith of believers. Safeguarding dogma is therefore considered a sacred responsibility, necessary to maintain the authenticity and purity of the Christian faith across generations. What do you think? Let us know your thoughts in the comments or comment with Amen. Thanks for watching the video. See you soon.